Hello, my name is Peter Murray, and I'm the boys basketball coach at Dexter Regional High School and the president of the Maine Association of Basketball Coaches. The MABC has been proud to partner with the MPA Basketball Commission in bringing you this rules interpretation video for several years now. Our goal each year is to help get everyone on the same page so that we can provide a positive basketball experience for our student athletes. Communication, as always, is the key. Please reach out to the appropriate association or commission leaders if you have any questions or concerns throughout the season. The MABC, along with the MPA Basketball Committee and Commission, are united in our efforts to open the lines of communication and facilitate a dialogue with all basketball stakeholders. We all have the best interest of the student athletes in mind. As coaches, it is imperative that we hold up our end of the bargain. Basketball coaching has a long and proud history in the state of Maine. Let's make sure that we do our part this season to continue that legacy. Remember, working together, we can make this season one that we can all be proud of. I would encourage all coaches to visit the MABC website at mabc1.org for information about McDonald's All-Star Weekend and many other offerings of your professional association. And finally, best of luck this season. Maine basketball holds a special place in the history of our state. Be proud and thankful that you are a part of it.
Hello, I am Peter Webb, the MPA's Maine State Basketball Commissioner. Welcome to the MPA's 2017-18 schoolboy and schoolgirl high school basketball season. The MPA's basketball is governed by the MPA's Basketball Committee, which is made up of athletic administrators and principals, and the MPA's Basketball Commission, which is made up of superintendents, principals, athletic administrators, coaches, and officials. Across the nation, for nearly a dozen years, the high school rules are viewed to be in excellent order for the high school game. As I say, this has been true for the past many years. Each state submits a report, and that's what the National Federation is guided by. The rules changes, points of emphasis, clarification, and reminders follow. The coaching box. The coaching box may be extended to a maximum of 28 feet. This decision is up to the individual state. The MPA's Basketball Committee has approved a 28-foot coaching box for the state of Maine for this coming season. The end of the coaching box will be an imaginary line, an extension of the end line. The next change has to do primarily with the sporting good dealers, designers, and athletic administrators. It explains what can and cannot be done from the V-neck to the shoulders of the jersey. Behavioral warnings. There has never been a formal warning in basketball. The Rules Committee, based on several recommendations, have put in place the possibility of a warning to the head coach and/or bench personnel for non-major misbehavior. This is a may be used. The warning is not required before ruling a technical foul. In other words, there could be behavior that would warrant a technical foul and a warning not be issued in advance. The behavior and conduct rules have not been changed or lessened. Should a warning be issued, the official would come toward the bench, much like with a player who is fouled out and state head coach, bench personnel, warning. Then the official would go to the scorer and timers table and report the warning to the scorer and have the scorer record the time and the fact that there had been a warning. Only one behavioral misconduct warning may be given, only one. This warning is not to be confused with the delay of game warnings that have been in place for quite some time. And they are, should water be on the floor during a timeout and time held up, boundary line violation, interfering with the ball following a field goal, or holding up play by entering the free throw lane. These warnings are not behavioral or misconduct warnings. Equipment worn for head or medical or religious reasons. It requires a physician's statement. This goes through the Maine Principals Association or the Maine Basketball Commission for approval. There are no color restrictions for these pieces of equipment. Equipment must not cause or be a safety concern. Points of emphasis. Team control during the throw-in. This is a review for coaches and officials. This has been in place for several years now, but there still is confusion at times. The team control during a throw-in is not the same as team control on the playing court. On the playing court, a player has to be holding or dribbling the basketball. This team control during the throw-in is only concerned about contact during the throw-in. As we know, there are no free throws on that team control foul. During the throw-in, 10-second rule, 3-second rule, front court status, back court status, closely guarded are not factors. The throw-in ends when the ball touches or is touched by a player located inbounds on the playing court. Intentional fouls. Intentional fouls has been a point of emphasis 5 or 6 times in the last 20 years. The Rules Committee received considerable reports and concerns about the lack of enforcement of intentional fouls during the game. It's true of the whole game, but especially at the end of the game. An intentional foul is conduct that occurs anytime during the game. It may be very slight, as we mentioned here. It may be that should be somewhat extensive rather than excessive. Excessive would be a flagrant foul. And the officials are to realize that there are 2 teams involved at all times and understand that, and rule intentional fouls when a player is committing a foul well away from the play or not playing the ball in some of those situations. Contact in general, defense and offense. The emphasis is that the offensive player, the offensive team, contact must be monitored and enforced just as defensive contact, whether it's offense or defense. The arm bar, often by a dribbler, often by a defender of the dribbler or the post player. Defensive and offensive post players. Body bumping with the belly, the chest, the legs, holding or pushing. Block charge, a review. The defender simply has to obtain legal guarding position. That means get 2 feet on the floor just momentarily in a frontal facing of the opponent. From that point on, the defender may move to maintain his or her position. And that means the player could be airborne and bumped into. He or she does not have to have their feet remain on the floor. The defender is legal provided he or she doesn't move into or reach for the defender and cause contact until he or she is beaten. And the defender is not beaten until the offensive player gets both shoulders and his or her head past the front plane of the defender's body. If the offensive player clips the last 1/8 inch of the defender's body, it's still a player control foul. He must completely beat the defensive player. Verticality with the jump shot in the defender. The defender doesn't remain vertical and jumps into the offensive player, then we have a pushing or blocking foul on the defense. But the offensive player who jumps into and a follow-through the defensive player is equally guilty of illegal contact. So both are responsible. And the rebound play in boxing out is a carbon copy of guarding and block charge. The inside rebounder already has legal position, and he or she may turn around and maintain that position. Some clarifications and reminders shared with officials and with coaches. Headbands and hair control devices. Headbands go around the entire head. There are color restrictions. They must be beige, black, white, or the predominant color of the team's jersey. And there may be no tail. And each player on that team has to have the same color headband. The hair control devices simply go around the hair only. There are no color restrictions, but neither can there be tails or additions to either the headbands or the head control devices. Depicted here to help explain what we just reviewed, we see the headband going around the head, and then we see the hairband, which just goes around the hair at the back of the head. Some clarifications and reminders that coaches, players, and officials need to give attention to each year. One is extra periods. The reason this is in place is that there are many new coaches. There are coaches and teams that have a lot in their mind, and they don't remember or are not aware of how the overtime begins. So we do have a formal meeting with the referee and the two head coaches at the division line. Coaches don't need to worry about having time to prep their team. After this very brief meeting, the 1-minute intermission will begin. The official will indicate to the timer that the clock should start, and the teams will have their meeting prior to the overtime beginning. The end of the dribble, palming also along with this. When the dribbler allows the ball to come to rest in or on one or both hands, that ends a dribble. It is in the palm of the player's hand. Players attempting to dribble behind their back may not have the hand facing upwards under the ball. Doing so is a palming violation. The dribble is all over, and to continue dribbling is a second dribble and referred to as a double dribble. This is a point of emphasis for coaches, players, and officials. The pivot foot, the referred to spin move, the Euro step, or some other name tags for certain moves. what players need to understand and officials need to understand is that it's simply about the use of the pivot foot. It has nothing to do with this move or that move. The use of the pivot foot makes any move either illegal or legal. And for the record, there are several people who think that 2 steps are legal. Lifting the pivot foot and replacing it on the floor is a traveling violation. The pivot foot moved, then replaced on the court constitutes that traveling violation. The dunk, a reminder here, dunking is legal. To grasp the basket ring while dunking is a technical foul. We have a quick video on that coming up shortly. Timeout request reminders. Communication to the official regarding whether it's a 30 or 60 timeout must only be from the head coach. No other bench personnel can inform the official of what type of timeout. Otherwise, if the official's not informed that it's a 30-second, it will be reported as a 60-second timeout. And following a field goal, the new defense may be granted a timeout until the ball is out of bounds and at the disposal of the new offensive team's thrower in. We now have 6 video clips that may help with reminders and answer several questions that do come up. So if we can see the first one, this is a rather quick one. Here's a dunk in the basket ring grasped. That is a legal goal, but a technical foul for grasping the ring. There's nothing wrong with contacting the ring, but to wrap our fingers around the ring, grasp or hold the ring is a technical foul. Players need to be informed of that. The next video is jumping into the defensive player. We'll see this 3 times. In this situation, the official happens to make an incorrect ruling. The offensive player jumps into a legally positioned defensive player, and this should have been ruled a player control foul. And we'll see this one more time. The defender has obtained legal guarding position, and the offensive player, in an effort to get into good position to take the layup, jumps into the defender. The next one, we talked about dribbling and palming the ball. This situation occurs fairly often, and the coach thinks it should be palming. Here is a high, ugly, homely, different-looking bounce of the ball, but the ball did not come to rest in the player's hand, so this is a legal dribble, not palming. The next one is a guarding block charge situation where, once again, the defender very quickly obtains legal guarding position, gets both feet on the floor, and it only has to be there momentarily. It doesn't have to be planted there, and the player driving the end line commits a player control foul. This clip we're going to see 2 more times. The player ends his dribble, jumps off his pivot foot, lands legally, simultaneously on both feet. This is a legal jump stop. Again, this happens to be an error on the official's part. 1, 2, legal. So it left the pivot foot, jumped to both feet simultaneously, and attempted the try for goal. And now a screen. See the white player trying to help his teammate out while the defensive player was outside the field of vision, and is guilty of a blocking foul as he attempted to set a screen. Best wishes for an enjoyable and successful season. Should you have questions during the season, please feel free to be in touch with the basketball commissioner. The most expedient way would be through the commissioner, and the address there is pawsports@aol.com.